Hey, what's up? So, this is part two on God in America, and we can no longer have both of them. Because what Christians like to do, especially when they like involved in politics, first thing they like to do is say, "Well, I got the Lord and I got my good old America. We gotta love our country and pray for our country." Your country need to pray for itself. If we want to talk about adult responsibilities here, let's keep it 100. It's one's own responsibility for their spirituality and their morality as well. You shouldn't be trying to tell grown men what to do with their lives all the time. I'm saying that again. You should not have to tell grown men what to do with their lives all the time. These are the elementaries of especially of America. No, America has no excuse for all the things Christianity has influenced, from the movies and everything. The music is no excuse. They act like they babies, like, yeah, pray for me, like, yeah. I want to get where you at. You know what I'm saying? They've been hearing more preaching than you have. Half of these people out here been hearing way more preaching than you. They talking about they want to be like you. Nah, I need to be like you. All that teaching you've heard, all that stuff you done heard about the Lord, and here you are talking about you want to be like me. So it comes down to responsibility that they have not taken for their own life and spirituality. And it's no longer an excuse that's valid. It shouldn't be valid to you. Somebody sitting up in your face year after year, decade after decade, a nation talking about getting right with God, and it's taken 1,000,000 years. It's taken 1,000,000 years. Here we are at the end of the world, and America still ain't right with God. So how much longer are we supposed to wait? How much longer do you suppose to have the same message? Your message has to change at some point. If you keep telling people the same thing, you keep telling people the same type of message over and over again, isn't that almost a form of insanity? You're doing the same thing, expecting different results. That's why God holds us, the church, the world, responsible for what they hear. You minister to people one time and they're responsible for what they heard. That's it. These are adults. And we're acting like they're children, like they haven't learned their way in the world. So that's where your country is at. Playing with God, choosing to just do what they want to do. They found their niche. This country, above other countries, found their niche where they don't have to serve God to survive. They got money. They got programs that would take care of them if they don't have money. They don't need to pray for money. They don't need to pray for food. They out of food, guess what? Go down to a pantry. Go down to a soup kitchen, get you something to eat. You ain't got to pray for the Lord to provide. Other countries, man, they got to pray to get their next meal. So I'm just telling you what country you living in. You living in a country that doesn't have to depend on God. And when a country comes to a place like that, now choosing God isn't necessarily for one's survival, physically speaking. And like I just said, other countries, some people have to pray for their next meal. You don't have to do that here. So men have not grown up in this country to the place where they say, I'm gonna make a choice to serve God, although I'm blessed. Although, well, I ain't gonna say blessed, because we covered that in the other video. Although I have money, although I have, a family, things like that, I'm still gonna choose God. Americans are not doing that. That takes discipline. It does. I'll be the first to tell you. Because you got programs that'll take care of you. You got jobs out here. You can survive. You got plenty vices. If you're alone, you can get high, you can drink. You can do a lot of things in this country to call yourself substituting your relationship, your need for God, your need for a relationship with God. This country is always giving you those substitutes. So that's where we at. And if you look in the Bible, even God's chosen people, God didn't play with them, man. Let me say it again. In the Bible, God did not play with his own people, let alone some Americans, let alone a Gentile nation. You think he playing with you? You think he cares that you want to make America great again? He wants to make America righteous. God, that's on God's agenda. God's agenda is to make you righteous and to make you holy. He doesn't care about making you great. That's for all them Trump supporters. He doesn't care about, that's not on God's agenda. That's specifically also for the Trump Christian supporters, Christian Trump supporters. Before God makes America great again, he wants it to be righteous. All right? He wants it to be holy. Okay? That's what God wants. You need to know what God wants, not what Trump wants. People talking about, Christians talking about running around here talking about they follow Trump and they believe in Trump. I mean, as a Christian, I don't even get this. How can you stand with Trump just based on his mouth? I got so many scriptures I can use on the tongue. This is another thing, like I said earlier, like I just said a minute ago. We should not have to be responsible for another man's his moral cleanliness. The responsibility thereof. This man knows what's acceptable. This ain't no dummy. He knows as a politician and as a businessman. You think this man does not know what ruffle people's feathers? You think this man does not know what's offensive to Americans? You gotta be stupid yourself. This man knows exactly what he's doing. He's creating controversy and at the same time attracting the right audience and dispelling the wrong audience. If he's targeting you, then that means with negativity, that means you're the competition. That's what it means. You look at it however you want to look at it. I mean, you look at it. You need to see it that way. But because if a man comes out here and he targets you, this is a businessman. Remind you, this is a person that's been around politicians. He's been advised by many people, and he's sitting up in that White House after that. When he was in there, targeting people, targeting key people, then that means he's made you. You can even look at it as in a business way. He's making you the competition. He's saying he doesn't need you. He's targeting you. And yet Christians see this kind of activity going on, and you sit up here and think that God is with that person. And what it is, from every American, everybody's trying to choose the lesser evils. That's what it is. they know that man ain't walking with the Lord. If you a real Christian, fire baptized, filled with the Holy Ghost, praising the Lord, worshiping the Lord, fasting, you know, praying in tongues, you know this man cannot possibly be on top of this country at that time as a Christian, saying these things as a Christian. You know this. And yet Christians are doing this, falling behind him, because I think, well, a lot of Christians follow behind Republicans anyway. That's what they do. Because they feel like they have more of the moral values that Christians value. Because really, it's not a Christian party either. It's not. It's not. You can see all, if you really in the word, you really following the Lord, you know Republicans are not, the Republican Party is not a Christian party. Okay? That's what we talk about. We ain't trying to split hairs here. It's either it is or it ain't. It is or it isn't. Okay? We already know that the Democrat Party is not. It's not a Christian party. And it comes back to my greatest point of the whole message I'm trying to convey, the whole message I'm trying to get across here. We cannot choose any of these parties and choose God. That's how you know it's at the last time. It's in the end of times. To me, it's no Christian sitting around here talking about they can be involved in politics. How can you be involved in politics? You see all this stuff. I don't got to point it out. You see all of it going on, and you know God is against these things, right? You know this. It's not a matter of your opinion or a matter of my opinion. You know God is against these things, right? And yet, this is what is formed in your systems, whether it be Democrat or Republican. It's formed in your government systems, and you still think that you can have that system in God. How? How? You're being pushed out. You've already been pushed out. You can't see that? You can't stand up talking about what God is saying in America. If you famous or in politics, you cannot say nothing against anybody. You can't say nothing about what's going on with the black community too much. You can't even talk about that. You can't even talk about this gang banging and these kids getting killed. You can't even talk about that. You can't talk about none of this drug selling and really, because people get offended. You can't talk about nothing about lesbians or any kind of gay person. You can't talk about that. You can't talk about that. Not in America. That's where you at. So how is it you can have that crowd and God when you can't even talk about what your God said? You can't even talk about what your God says. You can't talk about it. So what are you doing? You're compromising. That's what you're doing. You're compromising. And I'm just saying, when you come, some people say, well, ain't nobody perfect, but when you come to God, you're there. You can't be talking about, well, I used to be, so I gotta do this way, and I gotta be careful because I remember what I used to be, but you're not there anymore, though. How long you gonna let people hold what you used to do? If 24 hours have went past, you're not doing it anymore. The sun has went up, the sun has went down, You know what I mean? The moon has come up. Hello, time has went by. After 24 hours, nobody should be talking about what you used to do. That's how I feel. Period. Now the same day is different. That's skepticism. If I just seen you doing something and you just drinking, and then 10 o'clock at night you say, "Yeah, I'm a Christian now." Now I'm spiritually sharp enough to know that could happen, and you can make that decision the end of that night for whatever reason. But for the average person, even the mind, that's why it's all about that person and God. It's really not about us. That could have happened. But for people on the outside, 24-hour period, less than 24-hour period. I just seen you drinking and then you talk about, people are going to wait and see. Now, a day's time, the sun done went up, the sun done went down. You done went to sleep, that person done went to sleep. We don't know what happened. You have to take people seriously after 24 hours. So how you letting people hold years and years ago what you've done? Months and months ago what you've done? You done ate, you done slept, you done went throughout the world, you still let people hold, you done survived and people done died, you still got people holding over what you did months ago? That's your own fault. That's your own fault. And now you holding up the standard of God. That's what you're doing. What you used to do, you're not doing that no more. You're not on that. Time has went by and you're not on that no more. And that's the bottom line. That's the reality. Forget what's been done. The reality is you're not doing it. So you have to hold up the standard of what not to do. You have the right to do that if you're not doing it. You have the right to tell people, this is how I'm living. This is what God says if you're no longer doing it. People like to say, well, you used to. Point exactly. Used to. Did. Past tense. Point exactly. And you have the right to make a change. You have the right to tell people, I have changed. You have the right as a human being, as a fully grown human being, to say, I am deciding to live differently. You don't have to give a great explanation to anyone for that. And you have to make a decision to turn from your country in the way that they live in. You can't have both anymore. You can't. You can't have both anymore. And that's what they mad about. I can't have both anymore either. I can't have God and drink. I can't have this connection with God and be out here having sex. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. You're only fooling yourself, thinking you can do it. You can't. You have to be, with God, you have to be logical. You have to be, in this way. Concerning this, concerning the lifestyle, you have to be logical. You can't sit back and be like, yo, well, I'm going to drink, pray for me. I still got the Lord in my life. Nah, man. Nah, bruh. Nah. You're not going to get anywhere, and the devil is going to be defeating you in all types of areas of your life. And when he decides to come for you, what you going to be? What's your defense going to be? You're knee deep in sin. You're knee deep in alcohol and sex. It's not going to work. I know what I got to do. And if part of the sinful process, shedding it off and separating, is part of that is my country as well, They got to go. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You have to make a decision. You have to look and see the writing on the wall. This ain't gonna get any better. These people are gonna be making up all kind of philosophies as they go in this country. It's gonna continue to happen. It's not just one thing. It's not just the gay thing. I'm gonna put it like that. It's so much more. If you could only open your eyes and see, it's so much more. People acting like, oh, well, yeah, it's just the gay thing that really separates the country. Really? Well, it's just religion that just really separates the country. Really? When you got people gang banging, killing kids, that's separating black people. You got black people that's with it, that feel like, oh, that's part of the game. You know what I'm saying? That's part of the game. That's what's gonna happen. That's what comes with it. And then you got black people say, nah, man, I'm not with that. What people don't see is there's becoming a divide in the black community. Whether we like it, whether we talk about it, whether we want it to happen or not, it's happening. Because people are not, it's too out of control, man. And you got some people that's hyped up off of it, man. They actually hyped up. Like feeling like some type of hypeness off that. Like that's cool. Like they city is cool and that we getting it in kind of mentality. And you got some people that just is disgusted, man. And they could love black culture. They could love that, but they disgusted, man. They disgusted. You know what I mean? And you can't be so sensitive to say the first thing you want to do in the black community is say, oh, somebody they're being a sellout. Being a sellout for feeling like gang banging and killing kids is wrong, and you don't want nothing to do with that kind of culture. That's sellout. Man, people need to come back down to earth, man. Whatever got them out there on Jupiter planes, you need to come back down to earth. Realize, man, you think it's a hip hop world, or you might think it's a thug world. It's not. It's some people that do not entertain that way of thinking. And then the news is constantly think about this. The news is constantly posting these crazy killings. They wondering how in the world this even happens. Because they not connected to know anything. Remind you, nothing about hip hop, nothing about the streets, dope selling, any of that. And it's coming from somebody who used to sell crack. I used to have crack in my possession. And I never done it. I never became the user. And it's a lot of crack sellers that can't say that. They may have sold a lot, way more dope than me. But they became the user. I never used it. And I hustled it though. I cut it up and everything. This is coming from that person. I'm telling you, it's time to evolve, man. Because it really ain't no money in it anyway. It's too much surveillance to be selling dope, man. It's too much surveillance. It's too much. It ain't that you can't get on the block anymore. That day is gone. Unless you in a real bad, dangerous, hole-like neighborhood that the police scared to come in, you can't sell no dope on no block. It's too obvious. Even white people know what you're doing. A white man that wouldn't have known back in the day what you was doing, even he knows what you're doing now.